Hey yo, what's going on, boys and girls? Episode 17 of season 2 is here. And yeah, we are one day closer to the regular season and another day closer to our last preseason game of the 2024 season for the New York Football Giants. What's up, guys? I'm Nate. That's Brian here to my right, as always. Brian, happy Thursday to you. And this is the first time in a while we're doing an episode early for me, but like normal time for you. So,
Yeah,
yes.
noon over here on the East Coast. So,
All right. How you
yeah,
doing, Bill? How you doing?
good. Trying to figure out how a team that won 6 games last year can be seen as regressing in 2024.
Yeah,
Like, ESPN, they've, worldwide leaders sports, and the other teams on that list made a lot of sense. Eagles, Ravens, but it seemed like an unnecessary shot at the New York Giants, which makes no sense to me whatsoever. Like, when I think regressing, I think of playoff teams not being playoff teams, not a 6-11 team falling farther. Makes no sense. So, might want to get that straight out, ESPN, and stop using the Giants for clicks. Be nice. Yeah, you're glitching, buddy.
Oh God, is it better now? No.
Yeah, you're better now. You're good now. You're
Okay.
good.
Keep me updated on that. StreamYard
Yep.
has been not very nice to me. Um, but there were 5 teams, I believe, that were on that post. So the Giants were one of them. Eagles, Ravens. What were the other two? Do you know by any chance?
I took a screenshot on my phone. I don't know
Okay,
exactly what it is. Hey, let me see if I can check on photos.
for sure. But as you look that up, but it's like what is regressing? Like you were 6-11 last year, like you just said. What is 4 games, 4-13? That's not regressing. That's literally the same
The same
deal
thing.
minus 2 games. Like it's not that. That's not regression. So, but yeah, look. At the end of the day, ESPN has. Let's be honest, they've gone downhill a little bit, and this is not a shot towards them. It's just they fired a lot of people because of cuts and everything. We just saw RG3 get fired like legit in the past week. I heard I do like Scott Van Pelt as the host of Monday. I think it's Monday Night Countdown. Yeah, Monday Night Countdown.
Yeah.
But I think for Sunday they replaced the lady that originally was hosting it with Mike Greenberg, who was the host of Get Up. He's a Jets fan, so I mean that's not a bad choice. I don't know who else they could have gotten, to be honest, to host that
I mean,
show.
I like Greenberg a lot. I think he'll do a good job with it. So, it's not too big of a move, but yeah.
I just feel like ESPN as a whole, it's gotten a lot of negativity towards them, which isn't the best because they are like the worldwide leader in sports, but they're not doing so well. Stephen A. Smith is kind of, in a
I don't
way,
know. I'm out on Stephen A. Smith.
why?
Because he claimed that Derek Jeter is the greatest Yankee of all time.
Isn't it Babe Ruth?
I can tell you, it's Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, Mariano Rivera's got an argument, Yogi Berra, all of them. All 6 of those guys, I'd say, are better. At least those 4. The first 4 I mentioned are better. Maybe we can make an argument with Yogi and Rivera and Whitey Ford. Jeter is kind of in that second tier. No shot Jeter. Great player. But the Mountain Rushmore of New York Yankees are Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle, and Joe DiMaggio. There's no question.
Okay, so that's like, yeah, you just named 4 guys that are better than Ruth basically better than Ruth yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. But he says Derek Jeter. Recency bias. He doesn't watch baseball.
No. Yeah, I'm all for saying Babe Ruth is not the greatest baseball player of all time, but if you look at the impact he had on the New York Yankees, the Yankees are not what they are without Babe Ruth. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Before Babe Ruth got traded to the Yankees had one winning season. One season when they won a pennant. That's it. No other playoff experience. And then they get Babe Ruth and turn into the Murderers Row, the 27 Yankees, the Yankees we all know and despise now.
Babe was the first 2-way player, correct? Basically, in MLB history.
I won't say the first two-way player, but he's the first player to have major success both ways. Because I'm pretty sure there was more two-way players back then, but I think he's the first to have major success as a pitcher and a hitter.
Makes sense. But alrighty, well, hey, look, Stephen A. Smith, he's very loud, which is fine. I don't mind that. It's just he could be better.
Yeah, like I'm all for like Stephen A. Smith plays his part really well. It's just like there's certain things where you can't do like I'm all for hot takes. I'm all for making crazy opinions. Like that stuff is good, but there are certain topics and aspects where you kind of have to be realistic. And like when you have naming players of all time, you can't go Jeter over like historic players that played 100 years ago that we're still talking about today. Okay, like I can't say for sure in 100 years we're going to talk about Derek Jeter, but I know for 100 years we talked about Babe Ruth, and I'm pretty sure we're going to still talk about him.
Well, at least he didn't say Alex Rodriguez.
Oh, if he said A-Rod, I think I'd be completely out.
But yes, but they have a few notable news people.
No, there's some great people on ESPN. Great people. Yeah. Greenberg, McAfee's there. He's good. Lee Corso is always fun to watch. Party Interruption's good every now and then.
I think my favorite clip from Lee Corso was, remember he was with talking with the kid, and the kid was like, "Go Bulldogs!"
Not so like, fast.
Not so fast, midget. And I was like, oh my god.
Oh, it's gonna be such a sad day when he retires. And I know they're trying to make McAfee be like the next Corso, but it's not gonna be the same.
And like you just said, we love McAfee. It's just like the Corso is just different. He's just that one guy. Like you can't replace him. So we'll see. But yeah, nice job, Stephen A. Jeter is not the best Yankee. Let's maybe the most notable these days because of today's generation.
You want to say he's the best Yankee of the 21st century? I'll give it to you. I will 100% give it to you. I think it's Rivera, but I would definitely put Jeter to the top two.
Oh yeah, Rivera, the closer. I forgot about him.
There are more people that have walked on the moon than scored against Mariano Rivera in the postseason. That's my argument.
There is like no closer like that at the moment. Well, yeah, there's no closer.
There's no closer that's constantly doing it like Rivera does. Like Diaz had the really good year in 2022, and I know he got hurt, and he's been solid this year, but not that elite level like he was in 2022. And we see flashes every now and then of certain guys, but no one's had the consistency of a reliever as Rivera has. Like Mason Mo's been good this year. I can't tell you next year he's going to be the same thing.
Oh yeah, 100%. This is his first year as a closer, and he's been exciting, of course. But next season, it's like teams kind of have, I was gonna say film on him, but they kind of know what to expect.
Yeah, relievers are hard because they're so, I don't know what the right word is, but the consistency isn't there. Like Aaron Loup, perfect example. Pitched to like a 1.69 ERA with the Mets in 2021, I want to say. Left for the Angels in 2022 and pitched to a 4.6 ERA. Like, yeah, exactly. Like, there's such a versatility there. Like, they don't, there's such a wild card there with them. That's like, I can't guarantee you. The only guy that you could guarantee was Rivera.
Well, look, I think for the Mets specifically, because I know we discuss more Mets on here than any other baseball team. Diaz, you've mentioned he's been hurt, but he's been okay this season. So who's your closer per se?
It's Diaz still.
It's Diaz. Okay, it's just the statistically part is not the same. Like they used to.
If you look at his numbers from 2022 to 2024, you'd be like, okay, 2022 is a much better pitcher. But he's been very solid. Very solid. Like, I'm still comfortable with him in the ninth inning. I'm still wanting to be the closer. It's just like, okay, you can tell that he's not the same as he was in 2022.
Okay. I don't know if you, well, I'm sure you recall. It's just I don't remember personally. Before the season started, you said pitching was a bit of a concern for the Mets, right? has
Starting pitching,
starting
yeah.
pitching was, but the bullpen part was fine. You had no
Mhm.
issues with that. Okay,
No.
I just want to make sure because I was thinking like, didn't pitching have some issues, but it was the starters. Um, I will say not because of my fantasy team, but I have noticed that Shamanaya has been pretty solid. You must be proud of how he's
Oh my God,
performed.
Minai's been great the past 5 starts. He's pitched, had a perfect game going through 5 and 2/3 inning yesterday. He was pitching so well yesterday. I thought he was gonna have a perfect game until he hit that guy and gave him a home run the next pitch.
Oy.
But he was dominant, and he's been dominant the past few starts. So honestly, right now, Manaya's put himself into a position where he have to resign him next season.
And with the postseason legit within reach for the Mets, I guess. But the one question I have is who's starting game one. I don't know the Mets pitching staff like that, like you do. So you might have to help me out here. So who's starting game one? Is it Blackburn? Is it Manaya? Who's the guy that started game one?
Probably Severino, maybe.
Wow. Has he been good?
Devi, Quintana, Manaya.
Shit. Has Severino been good?
He's been decent, up and downs, but I'd say he's probably the most consistent pitcher. He's the pitcher I have the most faith in when he's on the mound.
Gotcha. Well, I can't say anything about the A's because if they made the postseason, I don't know who they're starting. Let's be honest, but yeah, we'll see what the Mets do, man. But in general, let's not. I think the lesson learned from this small segment here was don't choose don't choose players and call them the GOAT because of recency bias. Looking at you,
Yeah.
Mr. Smith. Love you though, Mr. Stephen A. But other than that, buddy, let's not make those type of arguments per se. But one thing that doesn't require much argument is the Giants. A few things before we get to our 53-man roster because that's gonna kind of take up most of our time on the show. Let's want to cover the other stuff going on around the league. Congrats to Bo Nix. I think let's be honest. I understand they traded for Zach Wilson this offseason as well. I think personally for me, when I saw that, I was thinking like, okay, maybe that shows that even if Denver does get a quarterback, he may not be ready. In terms of whoever that rookie quarterback is going to be, may not be ready. So that's why they got Zach Wilson. Plus, they have the other Broncos quarterback. I think it's not Stidham. Stidham, yeah.
Jared Stidham, yeah.
So I was like, okay, they're going to start Wilson or Stidham to start the year. They're not ready anyway, second 10. But ever since Bo Nix has taken the field for the Broncos, he's been phenomenal in camp and practices. Yep. And he was named the starter like 2 days ago, according to from the I don't really like him like a coach like that, but according to Sean Payton, Nix is going to be the week 1 starter at quarterback. So your thoughts on that, buddy? Did you expect anything less? Just your thoughts on this decision.
Yeah, no, this one surprised me. Like, I understand Nix has had a great camp, great preseason, but the big thing about Nix was he was a raw prospect. He needed time to develop. He needed time to sit and learn. I think that was a big thing for him. He wasn't a day one starter. We saw it with him. His college career is kind of weird. Started at Auburn, transferred to Oregon, injury problems, really took off at Oregon, which is where all his draft stock kind of came from. But I think there was a thought around fans that, okay, yeah, he's had a weird college career. He's kind of a little bit older. He's not going to be that great NFL quarterback unless he's put in the perfect system and given time to develop. Now, you could say that, well, he's the best option at quarterback. Well, I don't know, because is it fair to this kid that he is the best quote unquote option, but is he really going to be ready for NFL defenses on week 1? That's where I don't know. I would have liked to see Zach Wilson maybe start at least 3 games. Give Bo Nix a little bit of time on the bench. I'm not saying he should have sat the whole season like Mahomes did back in 2017, but he definitely should be given a little bit more of a time to get adjusted. And then maybe around week 5 or 6, we're throwing out there to the wolves.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, he may not be ready yet, but he has impressed enough in training camp and the preseason, especially. He's been going off in there as well. I think the best decision for Denver was to start Nix in that. Okay, you throw in Zach Wilson. We've seen what Wilson can do.
Mhm.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, new environment, maybe he'll be better. Yeah, but like he hasn't done much in camp. Stidham was never going to be part.
No.
Of I mean, he was part of the conversation, but he never should have been because we've seen what
He
he
was
can
part of
do.
it because it was such a wide open battle.
Hmm I
Take
think,
take Daniels' contract out, and we're saying the same thing about Tommy DeVito and Drew Lock.
which would have been just a whole different conversation and a disaster
Mhm.
that thankfully we don't have to go through.
Yeah.
But honestly, yeah, good for Knicks. I really am happy for him. I mean, he was like the from a statistical standpoint the best quarterback in the draft last season. I mean, he
Yeah.
led the league in led college in passing completion percentage. I think passing yards had like 45 touchdowns. If I'm not mistaken. He was throwing
No, he was
dots.
really good in the
Yeah,
Pac-12 last year for
which is now
Oregon,
which is not
which
a
is
thing.
now gone.
And for those of you who haven't seen that yet, check out our episode yesterday. We talked about the Pac-12 for now the Pac-2 a little bit and conferences and all that stuff. So check it out on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. But yeah, shout out to Mr. Bo and yeah, well, I was gonna say Bo Callahan. Oof,
Oh,
Bo
Callahan.
Callahan. Can't believe he fell. But so breaking news before we get to the Giants roster projections: Jahan Dotson, wide receiver or formerly of the Washington Commanders, heads to Philadelphia. Um, Now, yes, I said Washington and Philadelphia. They're both in the same division, which pissed me off because why would you pick up? Matter of fact, why would you call or pick up the phone if it's Howie Roseman? It's like, haven't
Yeah.
you? What's that one video? Haven't you learned or haven't you heard? Or I don't know. But the point is, why there's other teams that could have used him and you trade him to freaking Philly?
We're missing something here. Like, if it's another move coming, because I know Ayuk at least was interested in playing with Jane Daniels, or is there some off the field disagreement between Dotson and Dan Quinn that we don't know about, or Dotson and Cliff Kingsbury? Is something maybe there that we don't know what's going on? There's something weird because Dotson is a young player, showed promise in his 2 seasons, and really could have developed with a Jane Daniels at quarterback, and then you're gonna ship him off for 3 draft picks. Like, there's some move coming here. Maybe it's going out and trading for Ayuk right now. Maybe it's another wide receiver who's going to be disgruntled and trading for. Maybe it's a wide receiver altogether, just clearing cap space to bring in a new player. But to me, this signals that Washington has something else planned, and this is just step one of a multi-part transaction.
I do want to start with Washington actually from their
Yeah.
perspective because without Dotson, your receiving room is it's thin from a perspective of uncertainty because the guys behind Terry McLaurin are unproven. You have Luke McCaffrey, who they drafted in the third round. He's likely going to step up and be that wide receiver number 2. They have a few veterans like Olamide Zaccheaus and a Jamison Crowder. They also have Byron Pringle, who we talked about before, almost signing with us before he went to Washington. And we have Martavis Bryant, who is a veteran guy who hasn't played football in a while, and he got signed to Washington for some reason. So there's a lot of uncertainty at the wide receiver position, whether the players do have experience or they're rookies and young guys. But in a way, it is a bit concerning, right? That Dotson, despite the fact that he was a first round pick, couldn't solidify himself as the wide receiver 2 in this offense.
Yeah.
It is a
No,
bit
it is
concerning.
concerning. It's super concerning, especially considering like the inexperience and the has-beens that are on the roster. Like, I like Luke McCaffrey coming out of the draft. I don't like him as my wide receiver too. I thought he'd be a special team specialist, be a kickoff, punt returner. That's where I think he would have succeeded. I
Mhm.
don't like him in a if I would put him on the field as a wide receiver, it's a wide receiver number 4 in the opposite slot. That's where I would put him. So having a wide receiver 2 on the outside is a horrific move. And then everyone else you just mentioned inspires no confidence in me to put him at wide receiver 2 either. I much rather take this shot on Dotson, who's a young player, and have him, be with this nice quarterback now.
And he was a first round pick. That's the thing. Like, you traded away a first round pick for what?
Nothing.
A third round pick, 2 7s in 2025. And matter of fact, you traded Dotson and a 2025 fifth round pick. So you gave him even more stuff. to Philadelphia. And it's not like Dotson was bad. Like statistically, he was great. We talked about this before we started the show. 11 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards in 2 seasons. Yes, do the math, do the average. It's not the best statistical stat line on a yearly basis. So that's about like 500 yards per season. And for a first round pick, that's not good. But you kind of can blame the fact that they didn't have a quarterback. I mean, Sam Howell wasn't the best thing that could happen to Dotson, and you shouldn't expect like crazy numbers from your wide receiver number two. And 11 touchdowns in 2 years, it's not bad.
No,
It's
no,
not
he
that
was a
bad.
perfectly fine wide receiver too, who I thought was going to get a numbers boost because he was going to play with Jane Daniels now.
Yeah. So I would have kept them, but hey, Washington is Washington. They'll do whatever they want to do and whatever. So,
Yeah.
but let's go to the Philly perspective. Obviously AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, two solid receivers. They're going to be just fine. But it was that wide receiver number 3 spot that kind of was concerning because you did have a Paris Campbell over there. We have Britton Covey. You have Johnny Wilson, the rookie. He's about what 6'7" from Florida State. But I think that I think it's clear the Dotson trade solidifies Dotson as that wide receiver number 3 and kind of pushes away Campbell and Covey and Wilson and also John Ross, who they signed as well. Those guys' chances of being that third guy definitely lessens a lot with the Dotson acquisition. But I hate to say it, dude, but Philly's offense is just loaded.
Oh,
To the
it's
point.
great. This is a great move for Philadelphia. The fact they got a young receiver like Dotson, who's still on a rookie contract, so he's not going to be a major cap hit for the next couple seasons. You can kind of start, which is what they need because they're going to have a few big cap space because you got AJ Brown with big contract, Jalen Hurts with a big contract. They're going to need to get a contract for Devontae Smith soon, so maybe this is kind of a backup, an insurance policy in case, Smith wants to leave and go somewhere else. They can just kind of put Dotson into that role. Because I really think he can develop and be a productive receiver in this league. But now you can make the argument with Philly, with those 3 guys, have one of the best receiving cores in the whole league. And that's only going to do wonders when you have a guy like Saquon Barkley in your backfield and a quarterback the caliber that Jalen Hurts is. It makes the offense more dynamic and able to spread the ball around. Now defenses can't, focus on the run because they're going to let a potential Dotson beat them. No, now they can't focus on the pass either because then you're allowing Saquon Barkley to beat you. It's Philly has a swift army knife of guys they can just use, and defense will have a really hard time matching up against that.
Like your defense has to be honestly like at a San Francisco level or a Dallas level to even compete with this team. It's clear, our Giants defense probably is going to be a difficult assignment to deal with Philly's offense, and we'll deal with them, I believe, week 6 of this upcoming season. So it's going to be, yay! Oh God, but yeah. And other news, real quick, Katie York. Well, the Commanders did make a move actually for themselves. They traded for a kicker. The Cleveland Browns.
That's not the move I was expecting. That's not the corresponding move. That's not. Todd Dotson being traded has nothing to do with Cade York being a Commander. Okay.
The Commanders traded a 7th-round pick for Mr. York, who will likely be their starting kicker unless something crazy happens, unless they traded for him for no reason. And then the cornerback AJ Terrell gets his money, $81 million extension by the Atlanta Falcons. Shout out to our guy Morgan at Morgan Men's Sports for his Falcons. Way to lock up one of the best corners in the NFL. Definitely a top 10 corner, no matter how you want to put it. So I think it's time. We got through the headlines, and I think it's time to reveal our 53-man roster projection for our beloved New York Giants. I guess some side notes as well. The Jets will not be playing their starters this upcoming Saturday against our Giants, so
be expected.
Yeah, and also Aaron Rodgers was like, he was talking about how like training camp was like the most taxing of his career, which stood out to me, but it shouldn't have because he hasn't played football in over a year. So you
41 and coming off a major knee injury, like of course it's gonna be taxing.
That's what I'm saying. How you doing, Kevin?
Kevin.
How you doing well, good sir? Hope you're doing well. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out real quick. I mean, I get it. The most taxing of his career. You know, no crap, but you haven't played like live football in a minute. I think he should have played. He should play like at least one drive against our Giants. But hey, if he doesn't want to, that's fine with us. But alrighty, 53-man roster projection. Simple. We'll go through. We'll take turns. If we agree on the picks that we got, that's fine. Makes our job easier, to be honest. But we'll go through each position, and then yeah, we'll see what we look like. 'Cause I don't know what your roster looks like. You don't know what mine looks like. Screw it. We ball. Let's do it. Quarterback position, buddy. You'll go first on this one. I think it seems simple, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Is it two
So
or three quarterbacks?
it's 3 quarterbacks. I didn't really include injuries in this because once this person's healthy, will be on the roster. It's Dan Jones, Drew Lock, and Tommy DeVito. Those 3 will be on the roster. They're guarantees.
Do you see a scenario in which it's don't need to take 2 quarterbacks?
If they want to move on from DeVito and just be like, "This is Jones' job. We're not doing any distractions or headlines," maybe, but I really don't think. I think it's the 3 quarterbacks.
Okay. But you see Locke making the team no matter what happens.
Yeah, they gave him $4 million. He's on this team.
Okay. I'll cut his ass, to be honest, but
I mean, I would too, but I don't think Shane. I think Shane wants a little bit more of a veteran backup than just Tommy DeVito.
I don't disagree with you. I don't. I think I disagree on the fact that like why did we make the video saying that he could be the QB1? God dang it! I look like an idiot. Oh my god. I really said he was gonna be QB1 he could be QB1. And he comes out.
I don't know that. I'm like, I know he's not gonna be QB1. Like maybe he can fight for it, but he's not being QB1. I saw what he can do with Seattle.
He beat Philly, and that was his only thing that he did. He did his little backpack celebration, and that's all he did. Mm-hmm. But yeah, for me, same thing. Jones, obviously the starter. Depth chart wise, if you really want to dive into that, I would have DeVito over Locke. But that's just because of what I saw, and then Locke barely makes the roster because of his $4 million contract. Definitely could see him either getting traded midseason if we explore that avenue, which we likely won't, but hypothetically, I could possibly see him traded. Running back position, it's not the same anymore, obviously. We used to have real quick before we get to the running backs, how do you like Jones in fantasy?
Don't draft him. Don't touch him. Don't do anything. Just leave him there.
Very late round.
And if you're in a super flex, very late round, not even that, because this is a guy who's not going to put up great numbers. Okay.
It's more of the idea. I think people try to, for those on the positive side of the whole Jones thing, it's the fact that we saw what he could do in 2022. Because he was a top 10 fantasy quarterback. I'm not even joking. I think statistically he was like in the top 10.
He was, but he had the rushing upside, which I don't think he still has.
That's what people are banking on, though. If they were to draft him, and their reasoning would be like, oh, well, in 2022, he used his legs and everything, so that's why we're going to draft him. But we both know, like, from a passing standpoint, that is so in question to the point where it's not even worth drafting him. If he does well, then yes, hit the waiver wire. But let's not act like, people like, for example, if I'm not gonna act like I'm a smarty pants for drafting him in the late round because I believe in what he could do. Like, I draft him because there's no other better option in a super flex league, like you just said, than Daniel Jones. And Kevin, I guess you're right. If you asked me about Locke, I would have told you everything you need to hear. Yeah, you see, I learned my lesson late. Like, it took one preseason game against Detroit to show that
it took a drive to realize, okay, this guy's not good.
Malik Neighbors, 12 snaps, 0 catches.
Yep,
that's all we need.
I didn't think he got a target that game either. Like, I think he was literally just running cardio out there.
That was actually ridiculous. So, alrighty, running backs. I think it's pretty simple, right? Singletary. I have 3 of them. It's Singletary, Gray, and Tracy. I don't see a 4th guy. I really don't.
I put 4.
Miller?
Because of the Tracy injury, I put 4. I can see the Giants keeping Miller out there just as an insurance policy.
Okay. Mm, okay. So you said you have Miller basically making because of the Tracy. Well, Tracy's off the injury report though. I don't know if you heard.
Yeah, I could just see him just be like, just in case. It was a
Okay,
fail safe.
gotcha. Shit, I can't change mine now. Screw it. If I were to add a fourth running back, why does my mind tell me Joshua Kelly wasn't too bad?
It's not a bad option.
Did
Guy's
did
got NFL experience.
did he play? I forgot. 1 second, folks. I'm trying to double check here. Oh crap, he's not even on the depth chart.
Yeah, he's
What?
not making the roster.
But he's a veteran. Oh yeah, we talked about it like 2 episodes ago about how he was kind of here just because of the whole Tracy injury. Yeah, four carries, 4 yards. Gosh dang it. I'll stick with my three. I hope Tracy's healthy so I don't look stupid for week one. But I know he was off the injury report like not too long. Jacob Johnson. If we were to do the whole fullback situation.
I can see that. It's a great pick.
Yeah. So Johnson, or yeah, Johnson's making the roster no matter what happens.
Yeah,
So
I forgot about that. Yeah, so
nah,
Johnson.
I don't blame. Hey man, fullback is it's a position that no one really talks about these days. So, Kevin says in today's NFL, don't you need? Yeah, you do. I just feel like you. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and be like, oh yeah, Johnson was gonna be my fourth running back. I just believed in the fact that three running backs is fine. That we could address a different position, which we'll get to in just a bit in terms of um the roster projection. I'm fine with three running backs. I really am. Plus, you had Jacob Johnson anyway, so that kind of solidifies to me that fourth running back role, Kevin. So, yeah, we'll stick with that. But Johnson makes the roster at fullback. Wide receiver wise, who do you have?
So I have the Giants carrying 7 receivers going the season. Malik Neighbors, Jalen Hyatt, Wandell Robinson, Darius Slayton, Allen Robinson, Isaiah McKenzie, and Isaiah Hodgins just barely scrapes the roster.
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, you said barely, and that's a great point because recently Hodgins hasn't really been what we want him to be. Like in
No.
preseason, hasn't really played that well. In camp, hasn't really showed out like he did back in 2022 during that magical playoff run where he was kind of an integral part of making the playoffs. I mean, he was phenomenal in those 2 games against Minnesota, both in the regular season and in the postseason. He was someone that Jones targeted a decent amount, I would
Yeah.
say, when he joined the team. But it seems like ever since that year, he hasn't been himself. And you could blame the quarterback play, but also his performance. He hasn't just been the receiver to make plays and stand out. So, like you just mentioned, barely makes the roster for the Giants. And for me, same deal. I think for me, it's Neighbors, Slayton, Wandale, Hyatt. That's the four main guys that make the team. When you made your roster, is it in that order that you have those
Yeah.
guys?
Yep, that's in the
Okay,
order.
so Slayton's is wide receiver number 4.
4. Yep, I have Hyatt 2, Slayton 4.
Okay, gotcha. And then so I would say from what I think and from what I've heard, I have Slayton at wide receiver number 2.
Mhm.
I love Hyatt. I do. I really
Yeah.
do. I do think that they'll rotate being that outside guy in this season. But then again, it's just the whole like Jones has targeted Slayton a lot. He knows him well, and it's like he didn't bring back Slayton just for him to be wide receiver number 4. If I had it my way, I would legit copy you and say put Hyatt at wide receiver number 2 and just keep him there permanently.
Yeah.
But if we want to compete, and
No,
also
Slayton's a safety blanket for Jones, and he has been his entire career.
and it's like it's no knock towards
No.
Hyatt whatsoever. It's just that because Slayton is still here, that's why he's demoted to wide receiver number 4. Hyatt is, but I mean, if I had it my way, I would definitely put Slayton at wide receiver number 4. But hey, we'll see what happens there. And then wide receiver number 5, not a bad choice to have. Robinson third on there, and then I was gonna say Ayer Asante. He's that undrafted guy that we have that
Mhm.
but I don't think he makes it on special teams. But I feel better. Oh no, because I had McKenzie too, but then we have that kick returner, Gunnar Olszewski.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to put Wandale Robinson a kick returner, for being honest. I want to give him some
Really?
looks there. Yeah, I think he's got the speed for it. It scares you with injuries, but I think he's got the speed for it.
It scares me because I don't. Has he had experience before? Do you know at the
I
kick
don't
return
I
position?
don't know 100% if he does or not. I'm just thinking like just from a pure just like skill set, I think he could thrive in that role, but I don't know if his experience not with it.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I think for just to keep that position to not have to worry about kick returner,
Yeah.
I'll put Olszewski instead of McKenzie on mine, and then I'll keep Hodgins. Barely makes it. 7 receivers. Um,
Sorry, it's flying here.
no, you're good. Keeping Hodgins on the team, not only for special teams, but also the idea that he also has that rapport with Jones, like we've seen in years past. Oh, basically the past couple of seasons. I'm acting like he's been on the team for so long. Uh, but yeah, I do see Hodgins making it, but just barely because he hasn't impressed much in at camp at all. So we'll see what happens there. Tight end position wise, what you got?
I got Bellinger, Theo Johnson, and Manhurts as my three. I give Bellinger a
Mm,
slight edge over Johnson just because he has the veteran experience, so that's why he's tight end one for me right now. But Johnson can very quickly take that from him. It's kind of a 1A, 1B, with just like, Bellinger's been here for 3 years. You kind of have to give him that kind
hmm
of edge over a Johnson. But I expect big things from Johnson this year.
Okay. I will. Yeah, I same thing. Johnson, Bellinger. I did switch out Manhurts for Cager. In this
Mhm.
scenario, Lawrence Cager has kind of been a bit of a surprise. Um, in camp, and also he has been on this team for quite a while now. I would say Manhurts. We signed him in the offseason. That was fine. I was happy with that. We also signed the former Eagle, came Jack Stoll as well.
Yeah.
But Manhurts and Stoll, they're more, if I'm not mistaken, more of a run blocker type. I do
Mhm.
think that Cager does provide some value in the run blocking game as well as his receiving um, upside as well. And that's why I have Cager as tied to number 3 in case Johnson does struggle at the gate. But I don't. It seems like Theo Johnson he looks ready to go. I think we've seen
He
in preseason he looks fine.
Yeah, no, I really like what we've seen from him so far. That's what I'm saying. Like, you can quickly take that tight end one spot. Like, tight end one being Bellinger is just simply based off, like, playing, I guess, like, the politics of it. Like, oh, well, he's been here for a while, so we kind of have to give him that shot at first. But it's very quickly his job to lose.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, and then offensive line, buddy. I think it's pretty
Uh,
certain. So, John Runyon actually returned to practice as we're recording this today. So thank God the offensive line looks healthy and ready to go for the 2024 season. So that's good news to hear from the Giants camp. Starting offensive line: Thomas, Runyon, JMS, Van Roten, and Illuminor.
Yep, that's mine.
Okay,
That's my five right there.
gotcha. And then backing them up is how many linemen do you have in total, including the starting offensive
I
people?
have 9 in total.
Okay. Who do you have for that one?
For the backups, I have Sinney, Scottman, Izudu, and Neal.
Stinny Scottman as oh yes, I forgot about Azudu. You
You
know,
see the you see the report that they're thinking about moving not only Neal to guard but center. They really wanted to explore him on the line.
that's what I wanted to talk because I saw you retweet that out last yesterday, and I want to get your thoughts on that. Guard, I see.
Mhm.
Center, we
Give
already
him a
have
shot.
one. We already have one.
I know, but it's just like I want to get Neal as productive NFL player we can be. He's shown that he can't be a starting caliber tackle. So the next rival option would be kind of a Swiss Army knife, swingman, play anywhere on the line. If he could play center, he could. I know he's not a starting tackle, but he could maybe be serviceable and be a serviceable guard. He becomes a very valuable piece in terms of depth options for this Giants offensive line that he could legit play anywhere.
hmm I think for me, we've seen the offensive line be cross-trained a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm fine with him at guard. And the
Yeah.
center, I don't mind center in the aspect like I don't believe like JMS is some superstar right now to the point where he's the unquestioned starter. I just think you ask Neil to do center, guard, and tackle in terms of what he can do. From what
It's a
we've
lot.
seen, yeah, and from what we've seen in the past with other linemen, it's like let's just stick with what they're good at. But then there's Neil, who is just not really good at anything. From what
Right.
I mean, he was what? He was a guard in no,
No,
yes,
he was tackle.
he was
He played
tackle.
both tackles.
He was a left tackle.
Yeah, moving the right.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. So I mean, I don't mind putting him at guard. I mean, if anything, it's just we have Van Roten though. So either Runyon or Illuminor have to play bad for Neil to start,
Yeah.
unless. Do you see any other scenario in which Neil gets a starting job in 2024 at all?
Not really, without injuries, no.
Okay. I'm trying to think because I don't think Van Roten he's going to be fine. Runyon barely came back today from injury, but he's fine. Illuminor it's Neil won't be trade bait, would he?
What value could you get for him though? Like, there's no value. Dude, you're trading an asset at its absolute lowest right now, so there's really no point.
A third?
I don't even think a team will give you a third for Neil. I think you'd be lucky to get maybe a fifth.
Eesh. Well, yeah. Oh yeah. See, this is why these roster projections are tough because it's like not even tough. It's just to the point where I don't know how Neil's gonna start, and he was our 7th overall pick like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Anything can happen, and plus injuries as well. That's obviously a big factor. So
yeah,
you gotta earn your spot back, Mr. Neil. Alrighty, let's go to the defense now. Giants run a 3-4 defense, as we all know. Who do we have on the defensive line? You can keep. I don't know if you have Burns at linebacker or defensive end. ESPN has him at defensive end. So
that's the problem I had. So I kind of have like my defensive ends and my outside linebackers being interchangeable with it.
Okay,
they could kind of play both because like Burns is a left end on ESPN, but if you looked at other sites, he's an outside linebacker. So I kind of just combined the two positions into like one, so like any of these guys can start and play.
Okay, well, we'll start with that then. Who do you have on? Well,
all right. So yeah. I have Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau being the starters. Then Anderson, Riley, Boogie Bashman, Azeez Ojulari, Fox, and Whitley as the defense combination of defensive ends and outside linebackers
on the edge. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Or definitely a big year for Ojulari, who hope he's gonna have a lot less playing time. So that's really no excuse in terms of just health wise.
You gotta show yourself this year. Like the team. I don't want to say team gave up on you, but they said you are not the answer at pass rusher when getting Brian Burns. Like the Giants made it a staple to get a big pass rusher in here because you could not be trusted. So you have to prove to this, because this regime didn't draft you, so you have to prove yourself to them. So this is a big year. If anyone on this roster is straight bait, is Azeez Ojulari.
And teams will trade for him in the idea it's like he is a threat. If unhealthy, this guy can rush the quarterback. It's just the health factor is so big to the point where it's like fudge.
Same reason why we might trade for J.C. Horn we were talking about yesterday. It's the same conversation you'd have about Ojulari.
1 for 1? Ojulari for
It's not the worst idea I've heard. It's kind of, it's kind of like you're just kind of trading two guys that maybe just need to change the sceneries and injuries have kind of stopped them.
Yeah. Same with you. I think just to keep it simple, edge and defensive linemen on defensive ends will be the same for me. Burns, Thibodeau will be the starters. Ojulari and Whitley kind of back him up. I don't Boogie Basham. He's not my favorite, but he's there, so he'll be the backup. And then Ryder Anderson hasn't shown me. No, wait, no, not Anderson. Sorry, who was that? I'm trying to think. Who was the other guy? Is Chapman's defensive end? No, he's defensive
tackle.
So
I have him as defensive tackle.
So you said Burns, Thibodeau, Basham, Ojulari, Whitley. Who was your sixth guy?
Be probably Fox or Riley.
That's what it was. I have. If Fox makes it, it's special teams, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say yeah. I'll go Fox over Riley. Oh, Riley's a. Gosh, why do we run a 4-3-4 3-4 defense? Oh
yeah, it makes it a lot harder to get
confusing.
everything straightened out. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll consider Riley a defensive tackle. Yeah, I'll keep Fox at defensive end. So Fox makes it because of special teams, but that's kind of it. How about defensive? Well, defensive tackles. Well, that to distinguish between the two. Who do you have at defensive tackle?
Very simple. Lawrence, Nunez, Roches, Chapman, and Riley can come in and play tackle.
Gotcha.
I kind of see him as Swizzard Knight doing both.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do the same thing because I have Fox at defensive end or edge. So I'll put Riley back at the defensive tackle position. Davidson, I think, got hurt last game, so he's going to get cut. Chapman has been absolutely phenomenal to the point where he may start right off the gate in week 1. So we'll see what happens there. But overall, we have 4 guys at defensive tackle, and we'll keep it that way. Don't have anyone else joining that position. That pretty much feels like set in stone as I'm taking note here. Linebackers, inside linebackers, because we kind of, outside linebackers pretty much the edge. Pretty straightforward, right? No questions here.
Yeah, pretty straightforward here.
All right. Okereke, McFadden, Carter Coughlin definitely makes it. Deontay Johnson makes it as well. Moasu, yeah, he makes it as the 5th linebacker because of his rookie status. If they wanted to add a 6th linebacker, I would say Matthew Adams because he's been playing pretty well himself. But otherwise, Okereke, McFadden are the 2 starters on this team.
You could throw Simmons because he's kind of being like that switch between safety and linebacker. Like he might play middle linebacker. We'll have to see. I put him at linebacker, but we'll see.
Okay, so you have him at linebacker. Do you have Moasu making the roster or no?
I think I do. Yeah, I do.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so Okereke, McFadden, Coughlin, Johnson, Simmons, and Moasu for you.
Yep.
I guess I'll put the same because I originally had Simmons at safety, but just to avoid any confusion, I'll put the same as well. I would say, yeah, I was like Darian Beavers has a chance to make it, but I think because of his injury history and everything like that, it'll be hard for him to make the roster and go from there. So, but Deontay Johnson definitely has impressed enough to be on the 53. I'm just writing this down because I'm confused in terms of where do I have Simmons at safety or linebacker. But I'll just to avoid the confusion for myself later, we'll keep it like that. All righty, quarterback position, definitely a big one. We know it. Deontay Banks, obviously the starter there. Flott slated to be that second corner as well. What's his name?
Phillips.
Phillips is gonna be the slot guy. It's just who's going to be behind him. So who do you have for that, buddy?
I have McLeod, Herndon, and Hawkins the third as my 3 backups.
McLeod, Herndon, and Hawkins the third. Hawkins had a good, preseason last year, and then week 1 allowed a perfect passer rating when targeted. So that wasn't a good sign.
Yeah, but he's quarterback 6 right now, so he's not seeing the field.
Thank the Lord that is the case. So yeah, same thing for me in terms of the top three and Banks, Flott, and Phillips. I do like Holmes. I think he'll make the roster on special teams and or anything. He could be a solid cornerback four. Hawkins makes it as well, and then honestly, McLeod, he's a question mark. But at the same time, we haven't heard much from Trey Herndon either. So I do see, even though we did sign him to a deal in the offseason, he hasn't, impressed enough, it seems like, to make the roster. So I put McLeod in there as that last guy. He is a potential quarterback number two possibility, but hopefully that's not the case. That Flott and or Phillips. Well, no, Phillips is going to be in the slot, so that just basically I'm banking on Cordell Flott being the guy on the outside.
Yeah.
All right, safety wise, same thing. Pretty straightforward, right? Pinnock.
Yeah, Dubin and Pinnock being your starters. Yeah.
And then Belton back as a backup as well. And then do we have a fourth? We don't have a fourth guy.
I gave it to Owens.
Okay. Gotcha. I would because Alex Johnson hasn't played that bad either.
No.
I would put Johnson over Owens. I haven't for some reason heard much of Owens. I could be wrong, of course. But based off what I've seen in the preseason and heard from the preseason as well, Johnson has played pretty solid enough to kind of make it over Owens, who hasn't done much other than special teams, but Johnson has played pretty well. So okay, I'll put Johnson at safety. And then kicker, punter, don't know why we're discussing it, but we'll do it anyways. Gano, Gillian, and then the long snapper and Casey Creeder.
Yep, that's simple.
Okay.
Not hard.
Nope, not at all. Not at all whatsoever. And then kick returner, who do you have as your kickoff and punt returner?
So this is tough because I don't really know who I want back there. I've been debating it all night. I maybe see Wan'Dale Robinson for a little bit and then see how that goes. Maybe try Eric Gray again there. That's about it. Going to be kind of testing which speedster has what it takes.
Okay, gotcha. So you're basically, if you had to choose today, it'd be Wan'Dale for both.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll stick. I have Olszewski on the roster just for this specific reason, just to kind of take the pressure or take the stress away from the kick return and punt return game. He can obviously do both. He returned that one kick last year against the Rams for a touchdown, which was a great sight to see. But nothing
I definitely
wrong.
thought about him. He was definitely like a hard person. It was torn between him and Hodgins for me, but I think Hodgins fits better as a blocker, being more like kind of run stopper, where he can kind of thrive there, and you can kind of find someone else to fit that role as a returner.
Makes sense. Alrighty. Well, that's our 53-man roster projection. We'll see what happens on next week when the roster gets revealed, and we'll see how. Me and you, we basically have the same roster. I feel.
Yeah,
like.
a few
just
slight,
a few.
Yeah, minors, but like nothing. Our starters, I think, are all the same. So nothing really crazy change between us
because everything.
Like none of us do us trading for JC Horn, which I did consider, but I'm like that's a little too crazy.
Yeah, it's something that is. If they do consider it, obviously don't blame them. If they don't, though, we'll roll with what we have at the cornerback position with Banks and Flott as the two boundary guys on the outside. Offensively, though, no matter what happens, it seems like Brian Dable will call plays for this team this upcoming regular season. He will call the plays again against the Jets. He hasn't officially announced if he's doing it for the regular season, but all signs point towards that. Your thoughts on that before we wrap things up here?
Oh, I love it. I like it a lot because this is Brian Dable's offense. I've said it so many times on here is you cannot judge what McCaffrey does because it's not his offense. This isn't his playbook. This is Brian Dable's playbook he made, and Kafka is just calling it. That's simple. I want the guy who wrote the playbook to call it because he's the one that knows all. He knows what's supposed to look like, what's supposed to be. So having him call the plays is so much better for this offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Kafka, there's nothing wrong with being the OC and not calling plays. Like, you will have input. It's just, at the end of the day, the head coach and Dable will be kind of having the final say in what plays they run, and that's going to be the thing that will hopefully save Daniel Jones, which is Dable calling plays and make calling deep plays down the field. Not none of this conservative crap that we've been seeing these past couple of years. Anyone could do short and medium passes. It's about throwing the deep ball. And Jones has the capability to do so. It's just a matter of trusting himself and being aggressive when the time is right. We saw that last week against Houston, like we talked about before. The aggressiveness that was there. It's just, he is barely coming back. So it's like you mentioned yesterday, Brian, it was best to ease him in as best as possible. So, but at the end of the day, Dable will be calling plays. He will announce it eventually, but he will be calling plays to kick off the 2024 season, which starts in 2 weeks for us. We take on the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday, so it'll be fun to break things down, break down our opponent, which we'll do as well every week. Minnesota will be first on the list once that time comes 2 weeks from now. Alrighty, folks, that will do it for episode number 17. Next week, we'll discuss schedule breakdown, schedule predictions for both the Giants and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. We'll also have our fantasy league next Saturday, which will be fun as well. But other than that, Brian, any other headlines or takeaways you want to discuss before we wrap things up, my friend?
Not really. Everything's kind of just getting towards that time where it's just time to stop talking about it and try and get on the field. That's
Yes, sir.
8 days to Notre Dame football. This week, we have football this week with Florida State and the Georgia Tech playing in Ireland. So, be interesting to see if the Irish do that.
Really?
The game's in Dublin.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Wait, that's weird.
Yeah, Florida State, Georgia Tech, and Dublin. No sense.
Wouldn't it if the Irish did it? Oh,
I think because we did it last year, we're getting a year off. If I'm not wrong, we'll go back next year, or within the next couple of years, we'll be back over there.
It makes sense if it's soon because you guys are the Irish and Ireland.
We are, we're we're the Irish, we're the Fighting Irish. We're that's us, Leprechaun.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll break down the schedule for the Irish next week as well. Roster, maybe one day we'll do roster projections if we were a Notre Dame podcast, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't know.
That's hard. Notre Dame projections are hard.
Plus, it's like
I tried doing it a few times. It's hard.
How many guys are on a college roster again? Like what?
I think like 90.
Yeah, basically a whole damn preseason NFL team at this point.
Pretty much, yeah. And then you gotta think of all like, okay, who's being redshirted, who's not, who's transferring, who is it, who's coming in as a transfer. It's
a whole. But we know the starters though. Riley Leonard.
Yeah, you need to start. If you know the starters, you're good.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, Temporal doesn't really come into play as much.
Oh man, but yeah, we'll talk about the Irish next week. Our fantasy draft is next Saturday as well, so updates. We'll keep you guys updated during our future episodes for what we have plans for that. But 8-team league is what we have it set at, and we'll go from there. But until then, thank you so much for listening and watching us. We hope you guys have a heck of a weekend. Keep an eye out for our future episodes this weekend as well. The new episode of Coach's Corner is coming out tomorrow, and then we have the ATL show joining me. Tomorrow to do another division preview. So I think we're 2 divisions in. We have 6 more left. So we'll see what happens there. 3 left? Oh, we did 3. Oh, yeah, we did the South,
East, South, and North.
So you got me. West is next. Hopefully you'll be there for the West, but we'll talk about that off air, my guy. So until next time, folks, we'll see y'all in a future episode.